Good afternoon, everybody. This is Pete Procilo with Fire Engineering and FDIC. This is day 3, Wednesday, FDIC 2025. And we're here live at FDIC Podcast in the beautiful Fish Bowl, down here. So a little bit about our sponsor for the podcast today. This podcast is brought to you by Firehouse Subs. The firefighter-founded hot sub chain with a passion for hearty and flavorful food, heartfelt service, and public safety. Ready for your next mission, Firehouse Subs is offering firefighters the opportunity to continue serving after service now as restaurant owners. So learn more about them at www.firehousesubsfranchising.com. But we're here today with Jim Cortez, Fluid Marine.
Yes, sir.
How's your experience been here at the show so far?
It's been great. Surprised how many people are here, and certainly shout out to the firefighters that are doing what they do every day, taking time out to continue to train, and I don't see any people skipping their classes. They're definitely engaged, and that's wonderful to see.
Yeah, Wednesday, you start to see it now. You can't see it from this side, but it's starting to get packed out there. The hallways are filled. We had a great morning session, the opening ceremony with David Rhodes, Mike Champo, and everybody there. So it's been great. But Fluid Marine, you're back here. Tell us a little bit about Fluid Marine, what's going on with the company.
Yes, so Fluid Marine, we're a small business out of Franklinton, North Carolina. We manufacture patrol boats. We manufacture search and rescue boats. So we're unique to this space. What we have against us and all the firefighters that have marine rescue responsibility is the weather patterns are tough, and we're seeing that right now in Kentucky, and our heart goes out to the people that are there and the first responders that are attacking that problem, and we're here to help. So anything from 13-foot search and rescue, swiftwater rescue boats, all the way to 36-foot cabin boats for open water. So we've got the gamut covered for just about any circumstance that the first responder may need to respond to.
Gotcha, yeah, and certainly we're seeing more and more of these, water rescue situations and the fire department responding to these. We were talking a little bit about what's going on in, Western North Carolina in the wake of that, and in Kentucky.
Yes,
and,
the advantage that we have is we manufacture, we build rib boats. Rib boats are typically good for first response in situations like the Hurricane Helene response there in Western North Carolina, like what's happening in Kentucky right now. They're aluminum bottom rib boats, which means they've got inflatable tubes around the outside which help with collision from debris. They can deploy these boats from any place across rocks, any type of terrain, and really helps they're light, so it really helps get the response going. One of the typical issues that the first responder faces is being able to respond quickly enough to an emergency to make an impact.
Yeah, and I guess that brings us to what are some of those obstacles that your first responders are facing with water-based, rescue?
Yes, so deployability is one of the greatest things. So when the task force personnel, they get deployed, they're typically deployed from far away. So they could be hours from the scene, or even a day from the scene. Typically, they've got everything packed, ready to go, so they can respond as quickly as they can. Some municipalities, they have the luxury of having their own marine units, their own swiftwater rescue units. In that case, the response is much faster. The company, to help people respond to that, we do keep these boats in stock, because when something happens, you got to be able to take delivery if you don't have one now. So I think with the way the weather patterns have been, it's triggered a lot of interest in starting swiftwater rescue groups and those missions within departments who hadn't had them in the past. So we're here to help in that regard, and certainly would connect our customers with people who are going through that process, and anything that we can do to help them put a good program together.
All right. Well, so in terms of rescues, do you have any salient rescues that kind of come out with regard to Fluid Marine's products being there?
Helene was certainly a good test of the Swiftwater 13, because as you know, it was devastating. Our Wake Forest Fire Department, which is closest to our building, did make that response, and our boat performed beautifully according to them. And they're not the typical roll-up boat. A roll-up boat is not going to survive impact of chain link fences and things like that. So having the aluminum bottom protects the operator. It also helps the continuation of the mission. And on those Swiftwater boats, we also use something called a Piranha prop, which is a FEMA-endorsed prop that disintegrates if it hits an object. So they can keep those Piranha props extra in their go bags, change it right on the spot, and continue with the mission, which is pretty awesome.
All right. So we're talking about environmental conditions. What sort of environmental conditions can impact marine operations?
Well,
like
there are a number of weather factors that are involved. I think one of the things that stands out is in a marine rescue, if it's a fire, that's one thing. If it's a static object, that's one thing, where you can have a combination of land-based response plus a marine-based response. The challenge with responding to a marine or a marina type of fire is that typically the department on the ground can't get all the way around the fire to put it out, where the vessel can maneuver around the fire to extinguish whatever's there. What comes to mind for me is something simpler that happens more common. In 2021, the Coast Guard implemented something called the engine cutoff switch for recreational boaters. The typical recreational boat is under 26 feet, so about 95% of the boats that are out there. So this ECOS or engine cutoff switch law affects those boats under 26 feet. What that's designed to do is the operator carries a lanyard that's plugged into the ignition. If they're ejected from the boat will cut off. The challenge really becomes if a person isn't wearing that the way they're supposed to, or they're ejected from the boat and it doesn't work. Most of the time it should work, they should test it, but you run into risk with high-speed operations like that because the boat keeps going. And typically when somebody's ejected, they'll kick the boat into a turn. And if the turn is tight enough, it'll run over the operator. So the first responder has a couple of challenges. They've got to deal with the response to the operator to try to save the operator. All of the damage to property that could occur from the runaway boat continuing, and then they have to stop the boat, deal with the operator, deal with any type of bystander that's around. So it's a very dangerous situation. Plus, you don't know what's in the water. So the environmental conditions for pollution and other things that may be happening in a Swiftwater situation, it's even worse because you've got debris from houses and everything else that's disintegrated in the aftermath in that waterway. So first responder has to train for that incident. They have to make sure they've got their PPE ready to go, everything to keep themselves safe before they can save someone else.
And I guess that brings us to the aspect of training. So what type of training, how does training and equipment, factor into all this?
Maintenance of equipment is number one. So, when it's time to go, it's time to go. The equipment has to fire up and be ready. There are lots of different training opportunities. In North Carolina, there's a Swiftwater course that people can take at the community college in Fayetteville. There is a Swiftwater training group that is putting on here in South Bend, Indiana, I think in July, a Swiftwater training course. So I highly encourage anybody that's going to do that type of rigorous rescue to do that training. And I'll say this, and this is just from my background in the military, when things go wrong or when the going gets tough, the tough don't get going. People sink to the level of their training. So train.
Yeah, and that's, the mantra of FDIC, basically, training. I know we did have some water rescue hands-on training going on this week, which we had brought back. So, kudos to everybody out there doing that. And this is also for open water rescue.
Yes.
Situations as well.
Yes.
Not just the Swiftwater and that.
Yes,
that stuff,
and the rib boat is particularly adapt to that type of environment because they have shallow drafts, they have V-hulls so they can respond quickly. They're very light. They're lighter than a typical fiberglass boat because the whole top of the boat's basically an air tube. And those tubes protect the operator in that they absorb shock, and they also protect the boat from capsizing, and it won't sink if it swamps. So it's really got some advantages. Plus, if you're boarding another vessel, you can put pressure against the vessel with that tube while you board the other vessel. So it's a very safe, fast, lightweight, and fuel-efficient boat to use. And the other thing that challenges people is, in the open water, do they have enough fuel to respond? Can they go far enough? And so the more fuel-efficient the boat, the more likely they are to be able to get to where they need to get to.
And I guess that's different than other traditional, rescue vessels. I mean, what's the comparison?
Heavier vessels are slower. Typically, they require a lot more maintenance. Aluminum, like our larger vessels are fiberglass hulls with a aluminum spine. The advantage of that is it's a lot less maintenance, and you can shape the hull a lot more drastically for maneuvering than you can metal boats.
Yeah, and I guess that's going to impact your response times as well, right?
It does.
And
It does.
what's the benefit there with the speed and maneuverability?
So,
And for-
obviously every second counts in a rescue, so you got to get there
for
quick. A good thing that, if anybody's listening that can watch this, if you check out the Lester Holt, the splashdown of the Dragon 9 space capsule, you'll see the fast boats rolling up on that capsule to secure that capsule. They just happen to be fluid boats. So you
that's a pretty good product placement right there. Not bad.
It definitely is. So we're grateful for that situation.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know fluid boats before and you saw that splashdown, you know us now.
That's pretty good.
Yes.
Pretty good. So, in terms of long-term operational costs for your, emergency response times, what's the benefit of Fluid Marine?
Yeah. Again, I mean,
Huskies?
you're dealing with standardized equipment, so it's readily available. But standardization goes way beyond that. So it helps with training. When you know where the switches are, you can go from boat to
That
boat.
would help, yeah.
But also, when you know where the wiring lands, maintaining the boat even underway becomes a lot simpler. And we use standardized electronics, we use standardized engines, so people who have a fleet of these boats can maintain them all the same way on the same schedule, which is also good. But that's the key to response. Make sure your equipment's good to go.
And so we're looking at, emergency response times. Overall, in terms of like better equipment, what's the impact there?
So
what's the benefit there?
Obviously you want to have the deck space to work with. You want to have high-grade materials that aren't going to degrade while you're during the period of ownership. So we use military-grade Hypalon tubes, so they're very durable. The fiberglass is pretty thick, obviously very, very durable. The other thing is they take standard trailers and they are all roadworthy on a standard trailer. So for deployability, any of them, any department, anywhere could use these boats right off the shelf.
All right. So, what type of training or operational improvements would help first responders when it comes to maximizing resources? You have any recommendations here?
Well, again, I think it's experience with the boat. It is taking advantage of the training at seminars like this, and it's just practice, practice, practice. It doesn't do any good to put the boat in the garage and wait for something to happen. You have to go out and practice maneuvers, do training scenarios based on what is typical and what you may see, and make sure that the operators are all familiar to be suddenly in command if they are.
And you were talking about other types of, training opportunities. You mentioned some in North Carolina specifically.
Yeah, they have a center at Fayetteville Technical Community College specifically dedicated to swiftwater training.
Wow. And are you seeing a lot of departments, an increase in, I know we talked about an increase in these type of incidents. Are you seeing more demand, I guess,
Yes.
in terms of
Yes.
setting up those type of programs?
That's why we keep them in stock, and that's why we're looking for some partners to help spread the news. As a small company, we can only do so much.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
So we're talking about, mutual aid. So collaboration between emergency response agencies, does that improve efficiencies, and how does that come?
The standardization in the communications equipment helps tremendously, and so it's practicing and having the interoperability of the communications equipment, same type of protocols, and then practicing, catastrophic events like we've seen at DC and other places like that. So when something does happen, we're ready to go.
And are you seeing like these sort of regionalization kind of things coming together as well in terms of departments setting up their own
Yes.
thing? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, obviously we're regional in the Southeast, so we see it more in the Southeast. But,
Right,
but
gotcha,
we've got
gotcha.
interest from all over the country.
All right. So if you're looking to get in touch with these guys,
Yep.
fireboats.com.
Fluidboats.com.
Fluid boats.
Fluidboats.com.
Giving out
Simple
the
to
wrong
remember.
thing. Fluid
Easy to
boats.
get a hold of us.
Fluid Marine, fluidboats.com. And what else? Any final parting shots, parting words here?
Let us help you. You know, call us for a quote. If you're setting up your budgets, we want to be part of the process early on, and you know, we're here to help. Absolutely.
And so this was this your first FDIC? I know you're
First FDIC. I've
First,
got experience
okay.
in Sunday.
Gotcha. So he's getting out and about, Jim, here, and seeing the sights. Any highlights for you?
I did learn one thing that I found interesting, that in the city of New York, the #1 response is for scooters, scooter
Yeah.
fires.
Yeah, that is an evolving incident problem that everybody's seeing. You know, I think across the board, but especially in New York City. So
But a big shout out to the firefighters. Thanks for what you do. Come see us if we can help you. Glad to give it a shot.
no, and thanks to Fluid Marine for coming on here. Jim, thanks to you for being here. So we've got another couple days of FDIC coming up remaining. I'm sure you'll be around here. You sticking around?
Yep.
Yeah. Tomorrow we got the opening ceremonies day 2. It's going to be live streamed, so feel free to tune into that. And with that, I'm sure thanks to Firehouse Subs once again for making this all possible. This booth here and the whole production, and our production team. So and thanks to Fluid Marine again.
And a big shout out to the people in Franklinton that make it happen. Fluid Marine.
All right, thanks everybody, and we'll catch you next time.